it. I'll sing it for you, en serio. Then get me the hell out of...
Hey parents, Carmine here with your video review of Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Buchones Heridos, the one where the narco gets gunned down in the street. That's the one we'll play at your funeral.
Yes, I know, right? Espérate, what did you say?
Wildlands is a beautiful game that runs as smoothly as butter and offers a huge landscape. I loved the look and feel of the game, but it has a huge content problem. The story is good, especially if you can view it as a bit satirical of the past efforts America has made to rid South American countries of cartels and narcotics. I mean, it's clear by both the characters' dialogue and the players' actions that the US is not really here to save Bolivia. It's destroying one of the main elements of Bolivia's economy and leaving absolutely nothing to replace it. The US doesn't even care about the cocaine. It cares about revenge for the death of a DEA agent and the destruction of a US embassy. The problem with this game, though, is that the stuff you do in the first section of the game you'll continue to repeat until the very end. The locations are wildly different, but the mission types have very little variety. In my opinion, you must absolutely play this game cooperatively to make it palatable. But that's only part of the problem. Actually, if you don't mind the repetitiveness, the game is pretty fun. The problem is the mature content. There aren't many games that leave me truly stumped. In fact, most of the time I can tell what age I'm going to give a game within the first hour of play. Wildlands is not one of those games. It has content in each of the 4 categories, an absurd amount of mature language to the point where I was able to get the characters to swear on command, and it was throwing new elements to add to my list up to and including the very last cutscene. So yes, this video will include spoilers for the ending cutscene of the game because it is critical for the violence rating. What's especially frustrating though is that the mature content in the vast majority of the game is extremely minor. A huge portion of my playtime was spent traveling from location to location, picking up collectibles, gathering intelligence, and other non-violent or mildly violent activities. Normal levels of violence are pretty mild even for a shooter. Hits result in some blood, but no gore, and even melee executions contain no blood or gore at all. But the environment does include gore, and I might go so far as to say that it has plenty of it. You'll find hanged, jawless bodies hanging from street poles while you're driving around the street. There's a couple of missions where you'll go underground and find body parts lying around completely butchered. There's a mission where you have to find and kidnap a guy whose sole responsibility for this cartel is to dissolve people in vats of acid. And then there's the ending cutscene where the main antagonist holds the severed head of his enemy and casually throws it at your feet. Sexuality isn't really any better. While mostly absent in the game, there are bits and pieces where it's included in major ways. The most casual is when you have to spy on someone who's in the middle of bumping and grinding a woman. They're both clothed, but the implication isn't exactly subtle, and that's the most normal thing. There's also a part where you steal a cartel leader's Lamborghini, and it's mentioned that there are 2 bloody, used condoms in the glove compartment. Or the segment on the radio where the host jokes about women with facial hair and mustache rides. It should be no surprise that narcotics are included in a game where the main characters are systematically and violently dismantling a drug cartel, but even this idea isn't straightforward. The players never use any drugs, although they do joke about the fact that cocaine is legally traded in the country and how it can supposedly be used to treat altitude sickness, but you'll just end up blowing up tons and tons of cocaine from region to region. But there's one cutscene in particular where the group's leader forces a guy to try an overdose on cocaine. And the mature language is completely off the charts. If I had a gold coin for every time a character swore in my playthrough, I'd be Uncle Scrooge from DuckTales swimming through his vault of money.
Son of a bitch!
Almost every cutscene and conversation in the game involved mature language. Every time my drone exploded, the character swore. It got so bad I was genuinely annoyed at the lack of variety in their dialogue and responses.
Jesus fucking Christ. How are they... Jesus fucking Christ.
Shit.
Jesus fucking Christ. Shit.
So yeah, this game is really tough to make a call on. There's no content filters at all, not even for language, and trust me, I checked. We debated this one for days. So here's how it's going to break down. Officially, we're giving this game a recommended age of 16 years old. The obvious presence of gore in certain areas and cutscenes, the sexuality and implied sexual violence at times, the prominent presence and in some cases use of narcotics, the area where the player has to destroy some casinos, and the absurd amount of mature language all come together to offset the lack of mature content in the normal gameplay. But on this one, I'd love to hear your opinions too, so tell me what you think in the comments. I know it's early to call my Patreon poll results, but considering the length of the game, I'm going to say that Mass Effect Andromeda is up next, so look for that and more coming soon. Smooth as butter.